Luxury cruise celebration turned into a nightmare when my sister-in-law announced to the entire ship that my $2 million business now belonged to her husband. When I laughed, she ripped up my passport and screamed, "You won't be leaving until you sign it over." The captain walked up and said, "Funny, because this ship just changed course to drop you off first." I don't usually post online, but this needs to be said. What was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime celebration for selling my company turned into a surreal, almost criminal nightmare that I still can't fully wrap my head around. I'm not even done untangling the mess, but here's what happened. Judge me if you want, just know I didn't see it coming. I, 47 male, sold my tech company a few months ago for just over $2 million. It wasn't flashy, not the kind of thing that gets headlines. But I worked on it for a decade, days, nights, holidays, while everyone else was living their lives. I gave everything I had. So when it finally sold, I wasn't thinking yachts and mansions. I was thinking peace, some freedom, maybe even travel. My wife, 44 female, suggested a luxury cruise. Her brother, Mark, 42 male, and his wife, Sophia, 39 female, had been pushing us for months to do something big, to celebrate. I was hesitant. They're not exactly the easiest people to travel with. Sophia is loud, demanding, and very into appearances. Mark is more quiet but follows her lead on everything. Still, my wife begged, and I thought, what the hell, maybe I've misjudged them. We booked a luxury cruise through Southeast Asia, departing from Singapore, winding through Vietnam, Thailand, and ending in Bali. We splurged on suites, private balconies, butler service, the works. I covered everything. Flights, suites, excursions. Sophia even sent me a list of spa packages she wanted to try, and I said yes to all of it. I figured it was a generous way to say thanks to family who've supported me in their own weird way. Over the years, the first 5 days were honestly perfect. Dinners at sea, excursions to temples, beach lounging. Sophia was surprisingly sweet, Mark was relaxed, and I let myself believe they had changed. We were laughing, drinking wine, telling stories about our childhoods. But that was all a setup. One night, about halfway into the cruise, we were at a formal dinner, tuxes, gowns, everything, seated at this big, open-concept dining room with maybe 100 other passengers. There's a jazz trio playing. Waiters in white gloves. The whole room is low-lit and glittery. Then Sophia stands up, holding a champagne flute, and clinks it with a knife. Everyone goes quiet. I smile, thinking she's going to toast something generic, like love or family. She raises her glass and says, with the biggest damn grin, "We just wanted to say how excited we are to be the new owners of a $2 million business, generously gifted to us by our amazing family member." She turned to me and winked. I laughed out loud. Literally laughed. I thought it was a weird joke, maybe a prank, maybe she was tipsy. I said, "That's news to me." Her smile dropped. She reached into her clutch, pulled out my passport, my actual passport, and before I even understood what I was seeing, she tore it in half. Right there. In front of the entire dining room. "You won't be leaving this ship until you sign it over," she said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Her voice? Cold. Controlled. Not a joke. She was serious. I froze. For like 5 seconds I literally couldn't move. People were staring. The table went dead silent. My wife gasped, stood up and grabbed her arm, but Sophia shrugged her off. I stood, and calmly said, "What the hell are you doing?" Mark stood too. "Let's not make a scene," he said, eyes darting around the room. Like I was the one making a scene. "Sophia, give me my documents," I said. "They're gone," she said. "And we're not playing this game. You made promises, and we're not leaving this boat until we get what we deserve." Let me be clear, I never made any promises. They'd helped me with absolutely nothing related to my business. They'd mooch off vacations, borrowed money I never got back, and suddenly now they thought they were entitled to my company. This wasn't entitlement, this was delusion. Before I could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" It was the ship's captain, tall, uniform crisp, 2 security officers behind him. He looked at Sophia's hand holding the ripped passport, then at me. "Yes," I said. "There is." Sophia jumped in, trying to laugh it off. "Oh no, just a family disagreement. We're just destroying another passenger's passport," the captain said, stepping forward. Sophia's mouth twitched. "He's being dramatic." The captain raised a hand. "We have security footage. We've been monitoring the situation since it escalated." Security footage. So they'd seen it. "Sir," the captain said to me, "please come with us. We'll get you a temporary ID." Ma'am. He looked at Sophia. You and your husband will remain in your cabin until further notice. Do not attempt to leave. You are being detained for passenger safety and interference with international documents. Sophia started screaming. This is my family. He's manipulating you. He owes us. The captain turned his back on her. Funny, he said over his shoulder. Because this ship just changed course to drop you off first. Everyone at our table, hell, half the dining room, heard that line. Security grabbed Mark and Sophia by the arms. She was still yelling, ranting about her inheritance, screaming that she was taking back what's mine. Until they pulled her out of the dining room. My wife was shaking. She apologized over and over, but I wasn't even mad at her. I was in pure shock. My body was on autopilot. We spent the next few hours with the captain and legal liaisons on board. Turns out, luxury cruise ships have an entire security and legal system for this kind of thing. Not common, but they're ready when people lose their minds. I was issued emergency documents. A fax went to the embassy. Sophia and Mark were confined to their suite with a guard outside the door. The ship made an unplanned stop in Phuket, Thailand, the next morning. Police met them at the dock. And here's where I'll stop for now. Because the fallout? It's still happening. This didn't just mess with a vacation. This tore apart a family. And there's more: court documents, accusations, family picking sides. I didn't lose my company. But I lost something I didn't know was so fragile. The illusion that family would never cross certain lines. They will. They did. And I'm not done. After we docked in Phuket and Sophia and Mark were dragged off the ship by Thai authorities, things didn't go quiet. Not even close. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Get them arrested, file charges, go home, regroup. Nope. They had a backup plan. 2 days after they were escorted off the ship, I got an alert from my bank. Multiple attempts had been made to access my accounts. Some were locked. One of my cards had been used in Bangkok, even though I had it with me. I called the bank, reported everything, shut everything down. But they told me someone had called in earlier, claiming to be me, using just enough info to almost get through. My mother's maiden name. My old address. My first pet's name. Stuff only family would know. They were still trying to get the money. When I got back to Singapore at the end of the cruise, I didn't go home right away. I went to the embassy again, filed a formal report. I gave them everything: the footage, the statements from the ship, the bank alerts. I even handed over a voicemail Sophia left on my wife's phone while they were in custody, screaming that I had one last chance to do the right thing. That message? Huge mistake on her part. But here's the twist. When we finally got back to the States, I walked into the house and felt something was off. It wasn't broken into. It wasn't trashed. But things had been moved. A drawer in my office was open. My files were shifted around. A backup hard drive was gone. I checked the cameras. Nothing. Turns out the cloud account they were connected to had been wiped clean. Not by me. The password had been changed 3 days earlier. And who had access? You guessed it. Mark. I had once helped him set up a home office and used the same cloud storage years ago. He must have remembered. That was the real betrayal. This wasn't just some heat-of-the-moment meltdown on a cruise. This was planned, prepped, thought out. I dug deeper. I called a private investigator. He found out that 2 weeks before the cruise, Mark had met with a lawyer in our city, someone known for creative asset transfer plans. The lawyer refused to talk to us directly, but the address was enough. They were getting ready to fake a story where I had gifted them the company as a retirement plan. They even had a fake agreement drafted. And it gets worse. They went to my parents. They told them I had promised to include them in the business profits and was now hiding the money overseas. Sophia cried in front of my mother. Said I was manipulating everyone. That I had lied to the family. My mom called me sobbing. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just about money. This was a full-on smear campaign. They were trying to ruin me, financially, emotionally, and socially, and they didn't care who they took down in the process. My wife was broken. She stopped talking to her brother completely. Her side of the family splintered into factions overnight. Some people believed us, some didn't. I had to send out a mass email with proof, statements, even the police report from Phuket, just to stop the rumors. And even that didn't fix everything. Some people didn't care about facts. They just wanted drama. They wanted a villain. And apparently, I was the easiest one to paint. But I wasn't going to sit back and take it. I was done playing defense. The next thing I did would set off the kind of revenge that couldn't be undone. And it was only getting started. You'd think getting back home and uncovering how far they'd gone would be the peak of it. But this thing had layers. Rotting, ugly layers. And I kept peeling them back, one by one. A week after returning to the States, I got a knock on my door. It was the IRS. Not an agent, too. They had received an anonymous tip about suspicious business activity connected to me and an alleged overseas shell company. I sat there, blinking at them, my hands still shaking from the coffee I'd just poured. I asked if they were sure they had the right person. They were. They had my name, my business, my former EIN, and a recently created fake business entity registered in the British Virgin Islands, supposedly linked to me. The thing is, I had never opened anything like that. Never even hinted at it. But someone had used my business name, my old address, and a forged signature to try to register this offshore company. They'd used it to file a fake complaint suggesting I was hiding assets. I don't know if it was Sophia or Mark or both, but someone was trying to get me audited. Or worse. It didn't work. I had enough paper trail to bury the lie. But it triggered an initial investigation, which meant I had to spend time, and thousands in legal and accounting fees, proving I wasn't the one cooking books. Again. While I was dealing with that, guess what happened? Sophia posted a video. Like, an actual public video. It was her, standing in front of some random beach, probably taken before she got arrested. In it, she looked calm, smiling, like she was on some peaceful retreat. She told her side of the story. She said I promised them a share of the company years ago. That they helped fund me when I was broke. That I was now trying to erase the family from my life because I was embarrassed by them. She even threw in a line about how mental health is important, and how some people lash out when they're under stress. It got shared. A lot. People who didn't know me, people who didn't care about the truth, started commenting. He probably did promise them. Another rich guy screwing over family. Why didn't he just give them something? I stayed quiet at first. But then, and I still can't believe this happened, I got served. Sophia and Mark had filed a civil suit. They were suing me for breach of verbal contract. They claimed I had verbally agreed to give them partial ownership as thanks for early emotional and financial support. They had no proof, of course. Just one email I'd sent years ago that said, I couldn't have gotten through the stress without you guys. That was it. That was their proof. And the worst part? Their lawyer was the same one Mark had met before the cruise, the one who specialized in asset seizure and creative litigation. I was in deep. Not because I'd done anything wrong, I hadn't. But because they knew exactly how to weaponize the system. If they couldn't steal my business directly, they'd drown me in paperwork, force me to bleed money defending myself, all while smearing me in front of friends and family. And just when I thought it couldn't get any lower, it did. I got an anonymous email. It was short. One line. Ask your wife what really happened in Singapore. Attached was a picture. A blurry image of my wife. Standing outside a cafe. With Mark. And no one else. Taken during the cruise. Before the incident. Before the explosion. I showed it to her that night. She went pale. Then she broke down. She told me that before the cruise, Mark had approached her. Said he wanted to do something special for me. He wanted to surprise me by transferring part of the company. As a gift. To show appreciation. My wife thought he meant something symbolic, not legally binding. She signed a form he gave her, just something to authorize communication with the lawyer. She didn't read it. She thought it was harmless. That form was a fake document stating that she had full financial rights to act on my behalf regarding the business. And now I knew how they got access to that lawyer. How they almost got my bank info. How they convinced some family members I had made promises. My wife had unknowingly given them the wedge they needed. She was sobbing. Apologizing over and over. I didn't yell. I didn't say a word. I just walked out of the room. I sat in my car for 2 hours. No music. No calls. Nothing. Just silence. Everything I'd worked for was under attack. Not just the money. My name. My reputation. My marriage. All of it. But something flipped that night. I wasn't going to sit around anymore waiting for the next hit. I started gathering everything. Emails. Documents. Security footage. Bank alerts. I made backups. I hired my own private legal team, not just to defend, but to investigate. Because here's what I knew now, they weren't just trying to take my past. They were trying to erase my future. And I wasn't going to let them. The confrontation didn't happen in court. It didn't happen in some tense, Hush lawyer's office or behind a thick conference table with suits exchanging legal jargon. It happened at a family reunion cookout. Of all places. My parents, despite everything, thought it'd be healing to bring everyone together. I said no, hard no. But they insisted. Said even if I didn't come, they were going to invite everyone. And then my mom pulled the guilt card. You don't have to forgive, just come. For me. I showed up. Not because I wanted to. Not because I was ready. But because I knew it was going to blow up, and part of me needed that to happen. I was tired of dragging this in the shadows. I pulled up, walked through the side gate into the backyard. People were laughing. Kids playing tag. Meat on the grill. Music humming. And then I saw them. Mark and Sophia. Standing there like nothing happened. Laughing with an uncle. Sophia in her expensive sunglasses, holding a white wine like she was the damn hostess. I walked straight past everyone. Right up to them. Sophia saw me, smiled like we were old friends. Look who finally decided to. I cut her off. You lied to the IRS. You faked a company registration. You manipulated my wife. You tried to frame me for hiding assets. And then you had the balls to sue me for breach of a promise that never existed. And now you're drinking wine like this is your house. The music stopped. People froze. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. Someone's kid asked, "What's going on?" Sophia blinked. "I think you're confused, you're upset. You stole my passport and tried to hold me hostage on a ship." Silence. You could have heard a leaf hit the grass. Mark finally spoke quietly. "We were just trying to get what we were owed." "Owed?" I said, my voice shaking. "You've never lifted a finger for that company. You never gave me a cent. You were leeches. Leeching every vacation, every dinner, every holiday. And when I finally made it, you decided it was yours, because you couldn't stand to see someone else win." My wife walked over, standing beside me. She hadn't spoken a word since we arrived. Then she said quietly, "I told them about the form I signed. I told them I thought it was harmless. They knew I didn't understand it." Sophia's face twisted. "Don't act like you didn't agree. You told me he was planning to leave you out of everything. You said you wanted leverage." The words hit like bricks. My wife went pale. "I never said that," she whispered. "Yes, you did," Sophia hissed. "That day at the cafe, don't lie now." And that's when it hit me. They'd been plotting together. Before the cruise. Before everything. My wife had been angry. I'd made a comment a few months back about wanting a prenup if we ever expanded into another business. She hated that. Thought it meant I didn't trust her. Maybe in the moment she'd vented to Sophia, said something out of anger, and Sophia latched onto it. Twisted it. But even if she hadn't meant it, she'd started this. And she knew. My wife burst into tears. Full sobbing. Everyone was watching. No one spoke. My dad walked over, put a hand on my shoulder, whispered, "You don't owe them a damn thing." Sophia tried to grab Mark's hand. "Let's go. This is insane." But Mark didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me. Finally, he said, "I never wanted to do it like this. But I was drowning. I lost everything during the pandemic. We were months from losing the house. You were out there flying first class." I snapped. "And your solution," I said, "was to frame me?" He didn't answer. They left. Not just the cookout. They left town. The lawsuit was dropped a week later. Quietly. No apology. No statement. A few of the extended family members sent me messages. Most just stayed silent. Some unfriended me on social media. The fallout wasn't loud, it was quiet. Silent phone calls. No more birthday texts. Fewer invites. Everyone wanted to forget it had happened. My wife and I separated 3 months later. We never recovered from it. Not because of what she did, but because of what she didn't do. She didn't tell me. She didn't come clean until someone else forced her hand. And I realized I couldn't live with someone who kept a betrayal buried that deep. We still talk. Civilly. No screaming. Just distance. Sophia? Last I heard, she started some kind of influencer blog about narcissistic family members, and paints herself as the victim. Mark took a job in another state. Quiet desk job. I doubt he's proud of it. And me? I still have my business. I still have my name. But I walk lighter now. Quieter. I don't celebrate wins loudly anymore. I don't invite people in without making damn sure they've earned a seat at the table. Because the real lesson? It's not always strangers who come for you when you succeed, it's the people standing next to you. Smiling. Clapping. And calculating.